exit polls seem to have lit up the Delhi dangal. Today, two big exit polls are out, Axis My India and today's Chanakya, both of whom have got a fairly good track record of predicting state assembly elections. Up until now, over the last 24 hours since the polls closed, a majority of the exit polls have given the edge to the BJP, saying the BJP is on course to come back to power in the national capital for the first time in almost 3 decades. But what are Axis My India and today's Chanakya saying? We'll break down those two numbers for you at the top of the show. Like I said, most pollsters, at least 8 polls were out yesterday. 7 out of those 8 seem to indicate, directionally at least, that the BJP is in pole position. They are predicting a strong showing for the BJP, and the ruling Aam Aadmi Party will have to sit in opposition for the next 5 years. The Congress, really nothing much to write home about. So today, this is the number from Axis My India. It is a fairly big number that Axis My India has given to the BJP, the range between 45 and 55, and Aam Aadmi Party between 15 and 25. If this holds, if these numbers hold, the BJP would have had a 5-fold expansion. They had 8 seats last time, 8 MLAs, and the Aam Aadmi Party, which had 62, they would have lost almost a third of the entire legislature party that they had from 2020. So it's a clean sweep that Axis My India is projecting for the BJP at the median average of 50 seats, and for the Aam Aadmi Party at the median average of 20 seats. So that is a massive slide for the AAP and a massive win for the BJP. The Congress, nothing much really to write home about. It is just 0 to 1 and others 0 to 1. If you were to sort of break that down in terms of the vote share, the vote share that Axis My India is predicting for the BJP is 48%. Remember, last time around, the BJP had 39%. So it's almost a 10% jump for the BJP as far as its vote share is concerned. And for the Aam Aadmi Party, which had 53% last time, it's an 11% fall from 53% down to 42. The Congress, it had about 4.5% last time. It's improved its vote share just a bit. It's gone up to about 7%. Others have 7%. But really, again, like I've been saying, nothing much to write home about. Today's Chanakya, echoing similar numbers. In fact, the degree is quite substantial as far as today's Chanakya is concerned. 51 seats to the Aam Aadmi Party, to the BJP, and 19 seats to the BJP. 0 for the Congress and 0 for the others as well. Similar picture when it comes to vote share as well that today's Chanakya has predicted. 41% is the share that they've given to the Aam Aadmi Party, and 49% is the share that's been given to the BJP. And generally, I mean, it's clear from these exit polls, this is not a 3-horse race, this is a 2-horse race. And generally, when you have a 5% gap between the two players, then you can look at a landslide. So how does that shape all the polls that we have data for? Remember, there were about half a dozen or so, about 7 or 8 polls that came out yesterday. So if you look at PMark, it is giving it to the BJP in the range between 39 and 49. Matriz is also giving it to the BJP in the range between 35 and 40. That's a little conservative compared to Axis My India, or even for that matter, conservative compared to today's Chanakya. Today's Chanakya has given 51 to the BJP, 19 to the Aam Aadmi Party. That's a complete rout. In fact, it's similar to what the Aam Aadmi Party got in the first election that they fought and won in 2015. It was around there. Sorry, in 2013 when they first won, it was around there combined with the Congress Party. Axis My India, like I said, 45 to 55 is what Axis My India is given for the BJP, and 15 to 25 is what it is given to the Aam Aadmi Party. The only poll that seems to have given the edge to the AAP and not to the BJP is a little-known pollster called Weep Reside. We don't know what the antecedents of this pollster are, but he seems to be the only pollster who has given us an edge, a decisive edge to the Aam Aadmi Party. All the other polls, including the popular ones, the more credible ones, have given a decisive edge to the BJP. If it is true, and I want to underline once again, these are exit polls, these are not exact polls. Exact polls, you will have to wait till the 8th of February when the people of Delhi would have spoken. But as far as the exit polls are concerned, the BJP seems to be coming back to power after 3 long decades. I spoke with the Chairman and Managing Director of Axis My India, Mr. Pradeep Gupta, for what he saw in the granular data as to what is powering this massive victory for the BJP. We have the man of the moment, Chairman and Managing Director of Axis My India, Pradeep Gupta ji. बहुत धन्यवाद. Thank you for speaking with us. First things first, big number, 45 to 55 for the BJP. What did you see on the ground? How has this election changed so much in favor of BJP?
So, first and foremost, the change in positioning of Aam Aadmi Party, and that to Arvind Kejriwal, what they have been projecting 5 to 10 years back and what they have been seen today. That's the first thing. Second thing is that the people have favored particularly women. In our poll, women for Aam Aadmi Party 44 versus BJP's 46%, only 2 percentage points gap between two parties. But among the male, the gap widened to the 10 percentage point, 40 to 50 for the BJP. Second, the kind of promises made by BJP this time, particularly two very important things, apart from the facilities in case of water bill, electricity bill, free bus ride for the women, and health and education facilities. They said that it will continue if BJP come to the power. Also, they promised 2,500 rupees for the women, and that too they declare the date also. It will be done before or on or before March 8, which is the Women's Day. Also, on the other side, Kejriwal also has promised and get the form filled and issued the card for 2,100 rupees per month for the women. But when people used to ask what happened to your promise when you did so in before the Punjab election in 2022, they've been giving very casual answer. They call it very asamvedansheel, saying that we have been elected for 5 years. अभी तो 3 साल हुए, आराम से कर देंगे, इतनी जल्दी क्या है? On the other end, on the contrary, people saw that particularly PM Modi is saying and committing the date also. So people have believed largely in favor of BJP than the Aam Aadmi Party. These are the 3-4 basic points. Coming to the anti-incumbency, which was the mix. There were negative in terms of garbage collection, condition of the road, and kind of quality of drinking water. These are the 3 things which touch across the board, across the demography from top to bottom, which impacted and harmed the prospect of Aam Aadmi Party and that to Kejriwal.
Pradeep ji, for a long time it was said that this is going to be a triangular fight. Congress will take away Aam Aadmi Party votes or whatever. Did you see that, or was this a straight 2-horse race between AAP versus BJP?
So basically, it is a straightforward race in that sense. The Congress is likely to secure 7 percentage votes, but in some pockets, particularly that 0-1 for the Congress is coming from the Badli seat, where they are in fight. Congress has dented some prospect in 4 to 5 seats for Aam Aadmi, namely in case of Jangpura, namely in case of Okhla, namely in case of Badli, as I mentioned, and 3 to 4 more seats, where Congress is doing good, but not enough to win the seats.
Also, very quickly, I know seat-wise you may not want to reveal, but people are interested in knowing Mr. Kejriwal's seat, Atishi's seat, and Mr. Sisodia's seat.
So one by one, I try to say that, and also with a big disclaimer that we never ever do seat by seat, because people take it personally. You know, ultimately it is 0.2%, based on 0.2% sample size, 200 to 300 sample size. We are saying whatever we are saying. Sometimes it hold good, sometimes it may not be. So what we reveal is the most popular party in that particular assembly constituency on the exit poll day, which is today for us. As far as New Delhi goes, BJP was the most popular party on today. As far as Atishi's Kalkaji seat goes, where both the parties popular, but Aam Aadmi Party is having little edge over BJP.
Okay.
As far as the Jangpura goes, where BJP has the little edge over the Aam Aadmi Party, and as far as Greater Kailash goes, Aam Aadmi Party has a little edge, not fully secured in case of Greater Kailash, where the Saurabh Bhardwaj is contesting. Babarpur seat is fine and secured for Aam Aadmi Party, where Gopal Rai is contesting.
Wow, you haven't said it in as many words, but if you're saying that in New Delhi, BJP is more popular and in Jangpura, again, it's neck and neck, BJP slightly ahead. And if that happens on Saturday, that itself will be a huge headline. Pradeep Gupta, many, many thanks for joining us here on CNN News 18. All right, let's shift focus to the next story. And over 100 Indians were deported from the United States and flown in a military aircraft to Amritsar yesterday. Today, it became a huge point of contention between the opposition and the government in Parliament. So much so, External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar had to make a statement in both houses of Parliament. In fact, in the Rajya Sabha, he even answered questions that members had to ask of him on this issue. There were all kinds of questions that were put to him. He had to clarify that such deportation is not something that has happened for the very first time. It is a routine matter. It's been happening, he said, since the early 2000s. He in fact shared the data for how many such quote-unquote illegal immigrants were being repatriated or deported from America from the year 2009 when the UPA was in power. But the opposition would have none of it. They say that at least these people, over 100 of them, have been deported in the first flight, and we are given to understand there will be more over the course of the next few weeks and months. At least, at the very least, these people need to be treated more humanely. Because the pictures that you're seeing, and this has been tweeted out by the official Twitter handle of the United States Border Patrol, they are seen chained, they are seen handcuffed, and from some of the testimonies that we've heard from these people who were on that flight, they were not allowed to use a restroom for 40 hours on that flight. Let's listen in to the storm that happened in Parliament over these illegal immigrants, and then we'll go across to our guests. We'll also try and explain to you, why do people do this? Why do they spend 40 and 50 lakhs and up to 1 crore and take these illegal routes to go to the United States, only for them to be sent back in such an inhuman fashion?
So the process of deportation is not a new one. I repeat, not a new one. Honorable Chairman, sir, we are, of course, engaging the US government to ensure that the returning deportees are not mistreated in any manner for deportation by aircraft used by ICE. That is effective from 2012. I repeat, that is effective from 2012. Provides for the use of restraints. This is applicable to chartered civilian aircraft as well as military aircraft. There has been no change, I repeat, no change from past procedure for the flight undertaken by the US on 5 February 2025.
So the deportation of Indians from the United States has been a significant issue. In fact, the number of deportations has been fluctuating over the years, as has been indicated by the figures that have been provided by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department of the United States. They put out an annual report in 2024. It's the first time, though, that a US military aircraft has brought these illegals back to India. In 2019, 1,616 Indians who did not have any valid documents were deported from the United States. In 2020, that number was a little over 2,000. It was 2,312, an increase which, of course, was influenced by the pandemic and pandemic-related travel restrictions. And, of course, there was heightened enforcement during COVID time in the United States. There was a significant drop after COVID. The following year, from 2,000, it fell to 292. This was the year 2021. Also likely because the pandemic restrictions had been lifted. The flight reductions had also been lifted, slower immigration processing. And also remember, the government change between 2020 and 2021. It went from a Republican administration to a Democratic administration. The trend continued in 2022 as well. The numbers were pretty low in 2022. In fact, it was the lowest in the last 5 or 7 years. From 292, it came down to 276. There was a slight uptick in the year 2023. From 276, it rose by 100 to about 370, indicating a return to what is normal deportation practices after the pandemic years, both in 2021 and in 2022. And also there was pressure, remember, on the Biden administration. But you got to see that in 2024, in a significant way. There was a massive jump, again, possibly because of the pressure that the Biden administration was facing. There was a crackdown on illegal immigration. It was, of course, the year of the election, and Trump had made immigration the number one issue in that election. So the Democrats were really feeling the pressure. In fact, in October of last year, there were multiple flights that brought in these illegal immigrants from America. About 1,500 of them had been shipped back to India through the calendar year of 2024. But neither the numbers nor the process is being objected to. What the opposition has taken offense to is the manner in which these deportees have been brought back, and that has given ammunition to the opposition MPs to hit back at the government.
बहुत बातें की गई कि मोदी जी ट्रंप जी बहुत अच्छे मित्र हैं और मोदी जी ने ऐसे क्यों होने दिया? क्या हम अपना जहाज नहीं भेज सकते थे उनको लेने के लिए? इस तरह से क्या इंसानों के साथ बर्ताव किया जाता है कि उनको हथकड़ियां पहना के, बेड़ियां पहना के भेजा यहाँ पे? प्रधानमंत्री जी को जवाब देना चाहिए, ये कोई तरीका है क्या?
मेरे क्लैरिफिकेशन में मांगना चाहता हूँ कि लगभग 18,000 लोग वापस वो भेज रहे हैं। क्या मोदी जी वहाँ जाकर प्रेसिडेंट ट्रंप से ये 18,000 लोगों के बारे में कोई सकारात्मक बात करना चाहते हैं?
क्या सरकार जानती है कि 5 फरवरी को 104 भारतीयों को हाथ में हथकड़ी और पांव में जंजीरें लगाकर, जहां 19 महिलाएं भी शामिल थी, क्या यह व्यवहार एक आतंकवादी या उग्रवादी का व्यवहार है भारतीयों से?
The images were worrisome, and that's why you have made a suo moto statement. Because the images were worrisome, a couple of issues to seek from you. How much advance notice that the government of India received for this US deportation?
Yes.
And how many much more are in the pipeline? Number one. Number two, did the Indian embassy or the consulate provide any kind of legal or consulate service sought by them?
Yes.
Or if not at all, what was?
All right, I want to explain this to our viewers. This is illegal stuff. You're not allowed to enter any country without valid travel documents. You have to have a proper visa to enter any country. Now, these people, they really pay hell or high water to undertake what is called the donkey route. It involves crossing multiple countries, navigating dangerous terrain. It includes dense forests at times, high seas at times, and it's used by these illegals to get to the United States for some kind of imagined American dream, as it were. There are 3 different routes that they use. The first is via Canada. A visa is acquired based on fake university admission documents. The visas are acquired as well as work permits are procured. Then the immigrant stays at the Canada border for months, and then eventually they're sent across the border on foot. This first route costs about 80 lakh rupees. The second route, which is much more circuitous, much more dangerous in fact, is via Turkey. A UK visa is acquired on a fake work permit. The immigrant then enters Turkey via an e-visa. Remember, for Indians, you just need an e-visa to enter Turkey. If you have an e-visa for Turkey, you can stay there in Turkey for 90 days. Then they fly to any of the Central American countries. You can go to Guatemala, you can go to Costa Rica, you can go to El Salvador. Mostly they go to Mexico. They stay there for a week, sometimes up to a year, and then an agent moves this illegal immigrant through the southern border from Mexico into the United States. This route could again cost anywhere between 80 to 90 lakhs. And then there is a third option, which involves going through Latin America as well as African countries. Again, very circuitous, very painful route. They reach these springboard countries on a valid tourist visa, which is not hard to get. The immigrant stays, for example, in countries in Africa for a few months. Then they fly to, again, one of the South American countries or Central American countries. They go to either Bolivia or Guyana or Ecuador or Nicaragua. Then they traverse through much harsh terrain, through much of Central America to reach Mexico. And then this is perhaps the most dangerous route that is taken through the forest. It's taken through natural waterways. It costs about 70 to 75 lakhs, and eventually from Mexico, they are then through agents repatriated into the United States. Of course, a large number of them get caught at the border. So let's try and get a political perspective on this from both Syed Zafar Islam, national spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Shama Mohammed, national spokesperson of the Congress, is joining us. Sorry for the delay, but let me start with you, Syed Zafar Islam. What the opposition is asking questions of the government, they did that in Parliament as well, is that, look, nobody is condoning this. This is illegal. This is against the law in any country. Even to come to India, if you're a foreigner, you need to have a valid visa to come. Nobody is condoning this. But why should people be chained and handcuffed and not allowed to use the loo and put on a military aircraft, almost treated like cattle? That's the question that they're asking, Syed Zafar Islam.
See, first of all, you have to understand they're all Indians. We will always be sympathetic towards every Indians, whether they went to US legally or illegally, but we are sympathetic towards it. But having said that, a responsible government will also understand that migrating illegally is something which should not be encouraged as being encouraged by the opposition parties. They should not encourage the illegal migration to any country, and it is the responsibility of the government, of any government, to take back all their valid passport holders who are valid residents of the country. They should be taken back if they have gone illegally to any other countries. So it is a process which is being followed not from today but from 2009 onwards, and it is the people who are shedding crocodile tears now, they should have been speaking to the US government then. They have never spoken. We at least engage the US government. We have always maintained that this inhumane treatment should not be given, meted out to any of the illegal immigrant, because even if they are coming back, they should be given they have been given. In fact, the Honourable Minister has said very candidly on the floor of the Parliament that they have been given time to go to loo, and they have also been engaging the US authorities that illegal immigrant, it is their prerogative how they want to send it, either by commercial aircraft or a civilian aircraft or by Air Force aircraft, and they have to follow certain protocol. It is their prerogative, but we still have engaged them to maintain the basic requirement of human and what is necessary for them, and they should not be mistreated. This is something which we have engaged. They have never been engaged by the UPA government when they were deported by US.
Let me ask Dr. Shama Mohammed. So the minister gave out figures all the way from 2009, 10, 11, 12. In fact, the numbers from 2012 are just as much, if not more, than what we saw in 2024, the final year that we have figures for. So the minister clarifying that this has been an ongoing process. And how does the Congress or any of the opposition party condone the fact that these are illegals? They have committed an illegal act. Why are you defending some illegals?
First and foremost, Zaka, we are not defending any illegals. We don't like illegal immigrants. We don't want it here. We don't want to send anybody elsewhere. Let's understand that fact. Fact of the matter, in 2014, there were around 4 lakh illegal Indian immigrants in America. Now there are more than 7 lakh. After Viksit Bharat, people are going. Let's understand another thing. Out of the immigrants, illegal immigrants who were sent back to India, 33 are from the maximum from the state of Gujarat, then from Haryana, and then the least from Punjab. But of course, the plain lands in Punjab, that is it. Now, Zaka Jacob has been a journalist for decades, more than 20 years. Did Zaka Jacob, when these illegal immigrants, as they say, were coming back here, see them chained, like bonded laborers, chained in an aeroplane? They had to crawl to the toilet, and then the guy there just dumps them inside the toilet. They don't get food. They had to beg for food. Their hands were handcuffed. Did Zaka Jacob, who is a well-known journalist, who I'm exceptionally fond of, see such?
No, but Dr. Shama Mohammed, the minister said today in Parliament, you can say he's lying. I don't know. That's your prerogative. He said this is the procedure that ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has been following from 2012. That if they're going to be handcuffed, they're going to be handcuffed. And it's been the case for the last 12 years. He said
so. That's what. So I'm saying the minister is lying because we don't have any evidence of what we have seen today. Now, my thing as an Indian is, I was upset. I am sad that my people have been treated like criminals. We know that in Mexico as well as Colombia said, please take them back. We'll send a plane. We should have protested to the government of the United States and said, our people are not animals. If, yes, we understand they're illegal, we will get them back in our plane. That is what. But of course, Mr. Modi, acts like he is this 56-inch man here, but there he touches the feet of Donald Trump. Why did not Mr. Jaishankar protest the way they were got here? That is our issue. We do not want illegal immigrants anywhere. So I want to ask Zaka Jacob. Zaka, you're a journalist. Have you seen such pictures before ever in your life? No, you can tell us the truth. So the minister is lying through his nose, tongue and ears.
Let Zafar Islam respond to that. Zafar Islam, the exception that the opposition seems to have taken is one for the treatment, this handcuffs and chains and all of that. That's number one, that they've said it's inhuman. Why didn't you negotiate on that? And two, why should they be sent in a military aircraft from the US? You're sending civilian aircraft to Libya, to Yemen, to Ukraine. Why couldn't you send a civilian aircraft to America to get these people back? That's the question the opposition is asking.
See, that is what the Honourable Minister has explained to the parliamentarian on the floor of the Parliament, that it is the policy of the United States government and they are following this practice since 2012. And it is their prerogative whether to use a civilian aircraft or a military aircraft. And that is something which they are not doing only specific to India, but for every country they are following the same procedure, because it's standard procedure, operating procedure for all the illegal immigrants across the world who is coming to US and they are being deported to their different countries. Now, opposition parties collectively should think that they are coming from since 2012, whether the UPA government, where most of them were part of the UPA government, had made any noise. No, it is our government actually engaging the US authorities that mistreatment should not be there. They should not be mistreated. Yes, it is not something which any Indian would like to see and would love to enjoy. But it is important to understand that there are two nations and each nation has different policy. And if you have heard the statement which has come from the US ambassador, he said very clearly that it is something, the protocol which is being followed for every national who come illegally to our country, and something which...
So whether you're from Colombia or Guatemala or Mexico,
so we have to engage.
This is how you are sent back. Dr. Shama Mohammed, I have a simple... fair enough. You can ask a question. Let me just finish. 10 seconds. These are at most, the ones who are facing their final deportation orders in the US are around 18,000. There are 5 million Indian Americans who are legally living in the US, either on work permits like H-1B, or they are, people who are born there, or people who have immigrated there on legal visas. Why are you fighting, Dr. Shama Mohammed, for these 18,000 illegals and at the same time sacrificing the 5 million legals?
Zaka, shame on you. Now, I'm going to say shame on you. We are not fighting for them. We are fighting for the way they are deported. Again, you are a senior journalist. This guy is going on lying over your Zafar. Ask him to show the evidence of 2012. Why have we not seen this ever before? And if Mr. Jaishankar, if Mr. Modi had some respect for the people, do what the Colombian president did. Ask them, please, we will bring our people. We will not take them as animals. Now here, you're defending him. And he's defending Jaishankar.
Sorry. No, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not defending him at all. It's not my job. He is the spokesperson of a political party. It's up to him to defend his party.
But you're accusing me.
No, I'm not accusing you. I'm asking you a question, ma'am.
You're accusing us.
I'm not at all accusing anyone. I'm asking you a question. That's my only job.
I said very clearly, issue with illegal immigration. We are not for illegal immigration. Our issue is the way they have done it. And instead of protesting, like when Cobra Gada was treated that way, we protested. John Kerry had to apologize to this nation. We put barricades in front of the US embassy. We restricted their imports. We protested. That is how you take care of your citizens.
I would request both Dr. Shama Mohammed and Syed Zafar Islam to stay on for a minute, because I want to come to the second part of our debate. The other big thing that happened in Parliament, of course, was the Prime Minister replied to the President's motion of thanks, the debate. He concluded that in the Rajya Sabha today. Again, he tore into the grand old party in the upper house. He accused the Congress of mistreating B.R. Ambedkar, saying that the party's dislike for the social reformer, the framer of India's constitution, the Prime Minister claimed is backed by documentary proof. He said that Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas is beyond the Congress party's comprehension, but that's a mantra that guides him and his government. He countered Rahul Gandhi's caste census pitch, saying that the Congress has been neglecting OBCs, SCs and STs. The Prime Minister also said that the Congress did not give constitutional status to the OBC Commission as it was against the party's policy of appeasement. He reiterated that for his government it's Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, nation first, whereas for the Congress it is family first.
लोगों के आंखों पर पट्टी बांध करके अपनी राजनीतिक सियासत को चलाए रखना, ताकि चुनाव के समय वोट की खेती हो सके, यही कार्य चलता रहा। आज जातिवाद का जहर फैलाने के लिए भरपूर प्रयास हो रहा है। कुछ लोगों को लगता होगा ये यूसीसी क्या लाए हैं, लेकिन जो संविधान सभा की डिबेट पढ़ेंगे उनको पता चलेगा कि हम उस भावना का यहाँ लाने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं। बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर के साथ कांग्रेस को कितनी नफरत रही थी, उनके प्रति कितना गुस्सा था, और किसी भी हालत में बाबा साहब की हर बात के प्रति कांग्रेस चिढ़ जाती थी।
Dr. Shama Mohammad, the Prime Minister says the Congress they had hatred for Baba Sahib Ambedkar, evidenced by the fact that you didn't give him the Bharat Ratna 40 years after he framed the Constitution.
The Prime Minister of India, first and foremost, does not even follow the Constitution. He was talking about emergency. He talks about caste census. We do not like it. I'm asking the Prime Minister of India a couple of questions. One, if he thinks so, why doesn't he do the caste census? Let him come out and do it. Number two, why doesn't the Prime Minister talk about the stagnant wages in this country? Why doesn't the Prime Minister of India talk about that petrol and diesel have been deregulated, but still we give you at a higher cost? Why doesn't he talk about the unemployment rate in this country? Why doesn't the Prime Minister of India talk about what is happening right now? He doesn't talk about it. He goes first to Apatkaal. Every time, he's like a stuck tape recorder. He talks about emergency. Now, let me talk about emergency. Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi has, she's come out and said, yes, there are issues, shouldn't have done it. And let him also understand, in 1980, she came with a thumping majority. So let's understand that. Tell him to stop mentioning emergency.
So are you justifying imposition of emergency just because Mrs. Gandhi came back with a thumping majority?
She has apologized for it, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. We are not talking about. What we are saying is that she's apologized.
No, by that logic, Mr. Modi's got thumping majority in 2014 and 2019. So all his omissions and commissions can be forgiven because he has a thumping majority.
We are not bringing 2002. We are not talking about 2002. We can also talk about it. What we are saying is, why is Mr. Modi not talking about the biggest issue facing our country today is GST? The wages are stagnant, GST, unemployment, and petrol and diesel prices have been deregulated. Okay. It's clear that when the diesel and petrol prices come down, it also has to be passed on to us.
Okay, Zafar Islam, you've been an economist in a past avatar. Why are diesel and petrol prices not coming down? Why are we paying so much indirect taxes? By some estimates, more than 50% is being collected through GST. Yes, you brought down the direct taxes to 12 lakhs. Nobody has to pay tax till 12 lakhs. But what about indirect taxes? The issues that matter to the people of today, to the young people of 2025, what's the point about talking about something that happened 50 years ago? That's the question from the Congress spokesperson.
I think it was a fantastic speech by the Honorable Prime Minister. He addresses every single issues which needed to be addressed in his speech, and I think it was well covered, all the issues. Now, since you have raised about the GST, I must, or indirect taxes, I must give you the statistics, and it is for everyone to decide whether the accusation which is being made by the Congress spokesperson is correct or not. First of all, the indirect taxes, which is part of GST, is part of indirect taxes. Earlier, it used to be more than 6% of the GDP. Now it has come down to 5% of GDP.
It's a lie.
Earlier before the GST, please do not disturb me.
Because if you lie,
you don't know the statistic. Don't even mention that.
One second.
You don't even mention that.
Let him finish, please.
Mrs. Shama Mohammad, you should first check the statistic before even making this kind of a stupid statement. It is a lie. 5% of GDP is indirect taxes and 6% GDP of the direct taxes. Earlier it was higher when I said earlier it means before GST period when state.
Not higher.
Please keep your mouth shut because I was keeping my mouth shut when you were speaking. You please have some decency. I know you have no decency, but when you were speaking, I didn't interrupt you. Please have some decency. Whenever I raise some issues, when you feel exposed, you unnecessarily started making a statement. Listen. So what I was trying to tell you that during that period, complex state taxes and duties, central duties, excise duties, put together was higher, having higher impact on the consumer than the GST impact of GST. But it can be brought lower. But let me tell you, who are the culprit? Culprit is their own finance ministers, because they make the chief minister and the leaders make different kind of statement outside the GST council. When they come to GST council, I am challenging them. Come to GST council and say that these are the rates which we want to reduce. But they will not, because they know that their revenue will come down, and that's why they make noises outside, but inside they are comfortable. Every decision has been taken with everyone's consensus. So if they are making this kind of statement, I challenge Congress party and their finance minister or state finance minister to come with a proposal.
Okay.
Say that these are the rates which needs to be reduced. They will never do it, because I know for sure that in GST council they behave very differently.
But
and that is
Zafar,
what
18 out of 28
petrol diesel. No. Petrol diesel.
Zafar, 18 out of 28 states BJP is in power.
You know, this is how the
majority is
lies are
required
going to
for
be
anything.
Lies.
And their support is not there. Secondly, they support all they do not. First of all, you have to understand, Zaka, they do not want anything to be removed. They want more GST. As I am also asking that if they let this finance minister of state, finance minister of Congress ruled state come with the petrol and diesel should be brought into GST net.
Okay.
They should come with that proposal. Never they have come.
Saka, can I come in?
Because they do not want this.
Okay, 30 seconds. I have to wrap up after this.
These are all lies, fake
statement
statement
on the show. Yeah.
Fake statement.
Dr. Shyama Mahmood, yeah, quickly, please.
Something which is
Zaka, we
factually
have told
incorrect.
many
Yeah,
times,
okay,
including Mr. Chidambaram, that we need to reduce this GST. We need to reduce the GST. He's lying again. Our states have told very clearly all over the
Come
world.
to GST council, not here. GST
but
council.
Here we have 28%, and you know the common man cannot. Pencil, sharpeners, curd, your rice, dal, everything. Why don't you increase people who pay the direct taxes? It's only 6%. Make it 20 or 30%. That would be better, because you can't direct, indirect, and petrol and diesel will never apply, because deregulation of petrol happened in 2010, diesel happened in 2050. The revenue, this is called a revenue sarkar. They want to, they want to do the fiscal deficit by not by growth.
I have to wrap up. Thank you very much, Dr. Shama Mohammed, Syed Zafar Islam. We'll see how this story plays out politically. Of course, there is a few more days of the Parliament session left. I think by middle of next week it adjourns and then comes back again sometime later in February. I want to move on to the other story that we're focusing on, which is the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam, which has now taken a firm step towards implementing a decision made by its governing board on the 18th of November last year. It's now prioritizing the sanctity of the Venkateshwara temple. The board has initiated its first action against 18 non-Hindu employees. Now, these employees are being transferred to non-religious government departments, or they're being offered voluntary retirement. Now, what this move aims to do is to maintain the spiritual integrity of the temple's operations as per the TTD board's resolution. These employees will be removed from their current roles at various TTD temples and affiliated departments. They're also banned from taking part in any Hindu religious events or duties. The memo highlights that these employees have taken the oath of the deity to follow the Hindu dharma and Hindu practices, but they have betrayed that oath. So, who are these 18 employees? Now, we have some details, or at least some of them. 6 of these employees are teachers at various TTD educational institutions, according to the TTD's executive order that was released on the 1st of February. The others, out of the remaining 12 or so, they include a deputy executive officer in charge of welfare, an assistant executive officer, an assistant technical officer who's in charge of the electrical part, a hostel worker, and 2 electricians, as well as 2 nurses. But politics has erupted over this move. The MIM chief, Asaduddin Owaisi, who hails from Telangana, from Hyderabad, he has questioned the Chandrababu Naidu government and this decision to remove these 18 staff, asking if only Hindus are allowed on a Hindu temple board, then why did the TDP support the central government's new Waqf bill, which allows the appointment of at least 2 non-Muslims in every Waqf board in the country? Listen in to this political war of words that's been going on.
जब आप टीटीडी के एम्प्लॉइज को इसलिए हटा रहे हैं कि वो नॉन हिंदू हैं, तो किस बुनियाद पर तेलुगु देशम चंद्रबाबू नायडू बीजेपी के लाए हुए इस वक्फ बिल की तायीद कर रही है, सपोर्ट कर रही है? आप फिर वक्फ बिल में ये नॉन मुस्लिम कैसे बना रहे हैं, कैसे सपोर्ट कर टीडीपी?
दैट इज द स्टैंड ऑफ आवर गवर्नमेंट. देयर इज नो सेकंड थॉट अबाउट इट. So it's not even open to debate or discussion. We spoke about it before the elections. We stand by it, and we will see this issue through.
All right, India and the United States are expected to start negotiations on several key defense deals in the coming week as Prime Minister Narendra Modi travels to the US, to the White House to meet President Donald Trump. The official meeting is going to happen on the 13th of February, that's next Thursday. It comes at a time when America is on a war path with countries who Donald Trump thinks are selling America short. So he's threatened tariffs against Canada and Mexico. He's imposed tariffs already against China. He's also threatened tariffs against BRICS countries. India is part of BRICS. How does India navigate this Trump tariff threat? I decode. Narendra Modi's upcoming meeting with US President Donald Trump at the White House on 13th of February comes amid high-stakes discussions on trade, strategic partnership, and of course, a geopolitical realignment. The visit follows Trump's renewed focus on trade deficits and aggressive tariff policies. That creates both challenges and opportunities for the India-US bilateral relationship. Trump has already imposed tariffs on Canada and Mexico, which he's put on a pause for a month upon assurance that both these countries will meet his demands. He's got 2 demands, one to counter illegal fentanyl and the other to counter illegal immigrants. He's also hit China with tariffs and is threatening to do the same with Europe. So how does India navigate this new trade paradigm under Trump 2.0? Trade deficit reduction seems to be dominating Trump's agenda. He's pushing to narrow America's $26 billion trade gap with India. The White House is seeking increased Indian purchases of US-made security equipment. He also wants increased energy imports by India from the United States. Trump has made it very clear after his phone call with Modi last month that he wants India to purchase more American weapons. The F-35 fifth-generation fighter jet could be on India's shopping list. India also recently reduced customs duties on select imports, favoring US products and also signaling an openness to amend the country's nuclear liability laws. In fact, the previous national security advisor under Biden, Jake Sullivan, was in India back in January when he lifted 3 Indian entities from the blacklist of nuclear tech transfer in the civilian nuclear space. Immigration management is, of course, a top agenda for Trump. He raised illegal migrants' concerns with his Indian negotiators. India has committed to repatriating undocumented migrants who have been identified as Indian citizens. In fact, Foreign Minister Jaishankar, who was on a visit to Washington last month to attend Trump's inauguration, has said that India would welcome any Indian citizen provided he or she can provide necessary papers. A first flight carrying Indian illegals already arrived from San Antonio in Texas to Amritsar. Defense cooperation will focus on advancing the critical and emerging technologies ISET, which was something that was announced a few years ago. It is an NSA-level dialogue, an initiative for critical emerging technologies, and also expanding the Quad, which had been elevated to the ministerial level under Trump and to the heads of government level under Biden. The United States aims to ease defense export controls, which are conditional on India buying more American weapons. energy security discussions will also be expanded as US oil and gas exports and potential nuclear power collaboration with India will be on the anvil. India's recent $60 billion energy import commitment provides some negotiation leverage when Modi meets Trump. But the unpredictability of Trump is going to shake the very underlying stability of the relationship. Trump's threat of 100% tariffs against BRICS countries who are seeking dollar alternatives is a big one that India needs to consider. India, by being part of BRICS, willy-nilly could attract Trump's anger. But his threat against BRICS faces implementation hurdles. Currently, there is no BRICS currency yet, and making any kind of immediate sanctions on a non-existent currency is unlikely. India's BRICS participation also focuses more on multipolarity rather than trying to displace the dollar. In fact, the Indian rupee is not even among the top 5 most traded currencies in the world. And then there is a great degree of US-India trade interdependence. More than $90 billion of bilateral trade in the first 9 months of 24-25 that hems in together both countries. Yet it is in this very same trade of $90 billion plus, which by the end of the financial year could top $120 billion, it is in this trade that Trump would try and seek the most amount of concessions. The US could target some of the high-value Indian exports if the trade talks were to falter. Petroleum products constitute the biggest export to America. In the year 24-25, it was close to $18 billion plus, making up about 30% of India's exports to the United States. Drug formulations are the second biggest export to the US, particularly for the manufacture of cheap generic drugs to the tune of almost $8 billion. That is 40% of India's trade to the United States. And of course, there is also gems, jewelry, particularly in rough-cut diamonds, which are then polished and exported to the US. That is a big-ticket export item to America. A quarter of India's exports to America, about $6.5 billion, is in gems and jewelry. So there's pharmaceuticals, gems and jewelry, refined petroleum. These all face the highest risk because of established US domestic production capabilities. And this is without even going into software exports, which are a huge item of export from India to the US. In fact, in the fiscal year 23-24, India exported up to $200 billion of software products and services to the United States. India also has a problem with the H-1B visas. There are very limited numbers, 65,000 or so, which are issued every year, a bulk of which, more than 2/3 of which, are cornered by Indian IT companies. That too is a pet peeve in the Trump administration. So India-US merchandise trade restricted to just goods alone, reached over $93 billion in the first 9 months of 2024 from April to December. Indian exports to the US grew by 5.5% to almost $60 billion. The top category of products that are being exported from India to the US is refined petroleum at $18 billion. India has consistently reduced its dependence on cheap Russian oil, which it had procured in a massive way since the beginning of the Ukraine war. Right now, Russian oil accounts for less than a quarter of India's oil purchases, and Trump will be hoping that purchases from American oil companies would move further up into double digits. There's also generic drugs which are used in the pharma industry to the tune of almost $8 billion. Trump's new health czar, RFK Jr., is not a big fan of big pharma. Indian exports of generics could be another pressure point in the trade relationship. Overall, the United States remains India's largest export destination, absorbing almost 20% of all of India's total outbound shipments. And on the other way around as well, Trump has had a pet peeve about high Indian import duties on American products. He made a big deal regarding Harley-Davidson motorcycles in his first term. India preemptively addressed Trump's long-standing motorcycle tariff grievance through the budget 2025. So far, motorcycles under 1600cc, the duty has been cut from 50% to 40%, and for motorcycles above 1600cc, the duty, which was 75% earlier, has now been cut to 50%. This also follows a decision in 2019 by India when Trump was making a noise around Harley-Davidson. The duty at that time was 100%, so you had to pay double the cost in India while buying a Harley-Davidson. That had been cut to 50% after Trump's initial complaints. The latest reduction will make Harley-Davidsons, which are made in India, about 12 to 18% cheaper. Potentially, that could double the annual sales of the company to about 5,000 units. Both leaders will be seeking deliverables which will balance their domestic priorities and also show to their respective countries that this is the defining partnership of the 21st century. Trump's needs are very clear. He needs to demonstrate trade wins before the 2026 midterm elections. He also needs to demonstrate opposition to counter China through the Quad, for which he needs India. For Modi, his goals are to secure technology transfer, particularly when it comes to pending defense deals like the General Electric Hindustan Aeronautics Limited jet engine deal for the Tejas Mark II indigenous fighter jets, which have been long delayed. Modi will also want to stabilize the dollar and rupee dynamics, balance out trade so that that pleases Trump, and most importantly, to position India as a reliable US strategic partner that can take on China. The Modi-Trump chemistry will prove to be crucial in navigating these complexities. The ability to compartmentalize their disputes while at the same time advancing shared interests, whether it's in artificial intelligence, clean energy, and maritime security, that will determine whether the Modi-Trump meeting will actually be a fundamental reset of the India-US relationship, or will it be just another photo opportunity? All right, so how does India navigate this? Remember, Trump has threatened these tariffs against Canada, Mexico, even China. Ling Wei is the chief China correspondent for the Wall Street Journal. She's now joining us. Thank you very much, Ms. Wei, for speaking with us. So China has complained at the WTO. They've also hit out at retaliatory tariffs. Trump has threatened tariffs against Canada and Mexico, although he's put that on a pause. If you could help our viewers understand, why has he done that with Canada and Mexico and not with China?
Sure, it's a pleasure to be here. A simple answer here is that Trump has negotiated a temporary deal with Mexico and also with Canada. So far, he hasn't talked to President Xi Jinping yet. They are going to talk very soon. So that's why the Chinese tariff, the 10% tariff, has been already in effect. And as you pointed out, China has retaliated. But if you take a closer look at the way China has been retaliating, it's been quite targeted. While the 10% US tariff covers everything from China, China's 15% tariffs on US products really only cover a range of products, including oil and LNG and some agricultural machinery. The reason being that Xi Jinping, on one hand, he's retaliating, trying to basically show strength. On the other hand, Beijing still wants to engage in trade negotiations with the Trump administration to basically try to head off higher, even greater tariff hikes and export controls from the United States. So they are adopting this two-pronged strategy. On one hand, we still want to talk to you, but on the other hand, we are retaliating in order to build up China's own leverage for any upcoming negotiations.
So I do want to ask you, so the Indian Prime Minister is going to be in the White House next week. Trump has threatened tariffs against BRICS countries. India happens to be a BRICS country as well. And right now we have these two examples of Canada and Mexico who have managed to appeal to Trump's ego or whatever it is that they've done. He's put a pause on those tariffs, whereas China, like you said, Xi Jinping and Trump have not had a conversation. Therefore, the China tariffs have come into effect. How does a country like India navigate the threat of Trump tariffs?
I guess Trump just has proven yet again how unpredictable he is. So that's the key difference. What you just laid out is a key difference between the ongoing trade war versus trade war 1.0 during the first Trump administration. Back then, he had a very clear focus on China. This time around, the trade war is much broader. As you pointed out, even the allies, traditional allies of the United States, are now being threatened with tariffs. I guess, it's just, I think negotiations are still key. Try to really get a sense of what is that Trump might want from India. For the same thing for the other countries as well.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Ms. Lingling Wei, the chief China correspondent for the Wall Street Journal, joining us live from New York tonight. Thank you very much. That's a wrap. We'll see you again tomorrow night, same time. Hot Facts with Rahul Jaishankar. Up next.
Now on, women's sports will be only for women.
President Donald Trump on Wednesday signed an executive order to exclude transgender girls and women from participating in female school sports under his interpretation of Title IX. Reuters correspondent Dan Trotta explains.
Title IX is a law that prevents discrimination on the basis of sex in education. The Trump administration intends to use Title IX as a means to protect women in sports, that is, non-transgender women in sports, to protect them from having to compete against transgender athletes. That's where there could be a true change in policy if it holds up in court.
With my action this afternoon, we're putting every school receiving taxpayer dollars on notice that if you let men take over women's sports teams or invade your locker rooms, you will be investigated for violations of Title IX and risk your federal funding. There will be no federal funding.
Critics say Trump's directive stomps on the rights of a small minority of athletes, but Republicans say the directive restores fairness in sports and protects girls in schools.
So it's something of an open question, but the real issue, as the president of the NCAA said, is that there are less than 10 transgender athletes among the 500,000 participating in collegiate sports. At the high school level, it's impossible to say exactly, but the best estimates are that there are a couple of dozen.
The war on women's sports is over.
Trump's order also instructs the State Department to demand changes within the International Olympic Committee to prevent transgender athletes from competing.
Trump cannot dictate to the International Olympic Committee what its rules ought to be. And this is a matter that has undergone some serious review multiple times by the Olympic Committee.
The Trump administration has taken aim broadly at transgender rights since taking office on January 20th. While Trump supporters have hailed the president for making good on campaign promises, critics say Trump has overstepped his executive authority.
Under the Trump administration, we will defend the proud tradition of female athletes, and we will not allow men to beat up, injure, and cheat our women and our girls. From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
For a lot of trans youth out